Hey guys, it's Allie. Welcome back to Infertile AF, the podcast. This is episode number 30 called Rebekah. So Rebekah is a fellow New York mama who I met through Allison, my friend in the amazing doula featured in episode 4 of this podcast. And Rebekah struggled with infertility in her mid-30s before going through what she calls mini IVF, which she'll talk about. She went on to have her daughter, and then she had her twins. And today she is focusing all of her energy on supporting other women as a fertility coach, a motherhood counselor, a life doula, and a lot more. She also has this amazing website, which we will talk about, called itsconceivable.com. So without further ado, this is Rebekah's infertility story.
So we are recording.
All right.
Hi, Rebekah.
Hi.
It's good to see you again.
You too.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast. So tell me how it all started. What were you like growing up, and did you always want to be a mom and have kids?
Excellent question, and funny that we didn't prepare this. I did not want children growing up. It was never something that I even thought about, honestly. I had always wanted to meet the guy. I went on an insane amount of first dates, and that was always what I was looking for. I didn't go beyond finding the guy. And at 32, I still had not found the guy and was feeling desperate, but also was unwilling to settle for the wrong guy. And then I met him at 33, and he was the right one, and he was amazing, and he was not anything on my list of criteria of things I need to meet when I look for the guy to be with. And when I met him, I just kind of had this moment where I was like, now I get why people want to have kids. Like, you like this person so much that it would be kind of cool to do something that awesome with the person you love.
So what was it about him that was different from other people?
I think it was, and maybe this is not the right thing to say, but it was less about him. It was more about me. I've never felt so comfortable and at ease with another person. I've had more than my fair share of people that I have dated, and Nathan was the only person I could ever fall asleep next to in the bed first with. I would always have, if I had somebody over, it was always, I had to wait for them to fall asleep. I was just uncomfortable with somebody else around. But with Nathan, everything, I was able to be me, unconditionally, unequivocally, 100% me. And I had literally never felt like that around another person before.
Wow. How did you guys meet?
We met on OkCupid.
Okay.
I had been doing JDate for, I don't even know how many years, all of them. And he had all of the years I was on JDate. I was going on like 3 JDates a weekend or a day a weekend sometimes. Like, it was real. Yeah.
How did you balance all of that?
I didn't. I just went on JDates. I mean, they were feeding me. I was drinking with them. I was eating with them. So I didn't have to balance anything. I was just eating and drinking on dates. That was my life, and I worked, and that was it.
So you do like a breakfast, lunch, and dinner
date? Literally. And then instead of a coffee or a dessert or a drink after the dinner date. So yeah, I mean, it was an obscene amount of dates. And they mostly made it to number 1. I think I had a handful of second and third dates. Okay. They were mainly first dates. And then I went out with Nathan, and immediately, literally it's so cliche. I knew on my first date that he was the one, but I actually felt that way.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go out with anybody else after I met him. I didn't want him to go out with anybody else after I met him. And it worked that way. We didn't go out with anybody else after we met each other, and within a year we were engaged.
Okay, so then when did the kids' conversation come into play?
So we had talked about it here and there, but I actually recall one night Nathan even saying, yeah, it would be cool to have a baby, but he's a musician. And he said, but it would be even cooler to play on the stage in front of 10,000 people. And I was like, all right, but you said it would be cool to have a baby too, right? So I knew he was open to it, but we didn't actually talk too much about it. We didn't say we didn't want them collectively, so I kind of just thought that now that was going to be our path.
Okay.
I had never had an oops before. I knew my mother had had fertility challenges, and my grandmother as well. My mom had 5 or 6 miscarriages before and after me.
Wow. Was she very open with you about that, or how did you find out? Like, was
yeah,
it just...
I always knew. My sister was adopted. It was always part of our family narrative. Then Nathan and I decided, yeah, I guess we'll just give it a shot and try to have kids. I was 35 at that point, so in the world of fertility, that's already a geriatric pregnancy if you do, in fact, get lucky enough to get pregnant. The reality is, at 35, your eggs, your numbers do decrease. It is more challenging because your reserve is just going to be lower because you've already had your period for however 12 years, since you're 12 or 13 or 14 or 15. These days, younger and younger, so it does make sense. That said, you can still get pregnant at 35. You can still get pregnant at 40. People do.
Right.
So at 35, I knew that there was probably going to be a challenge if I wanted to, just because I had family history of it anyway. So I only tried for like 3 months, and then I take matters into my own hands. I was like, fuck it, this isn't working. I'm going to go do what I got to do. So I went, a doctor referred me to get an HSG, which is where they basically they send iodine through or a colored substance through your reproductive system to see if your fallopian tubes are working, and they're able to see where there might be a flaw, where there might not be, or if everything is working fine. So first of all, it was and I don't say this lightly because I know how painful both emotionally and physically fertility challenges are, but it was actually one of the most painful things in my IVF journey. It's this archaic I don't even know what the right word is. You lay on a silver slab, this metal slab, in a cold room, and they put this like claw, for lack of a better word, on your cervix, and you turn, or like around your uterus, you turn around so your so they can see both sides of your body, and so the ink or the liquid can go through both sides, and it is so painful. And it didn't occur to me to take medicine before because I was like, I'm just going in for a procedure. It's no big deal.
They didn't warn you like what was going to happen, or okay.
And some people don't have terrible experiences. I warned my friend, and she went in and she was like, that was nothing.
Oh.
So some people have no problem, and some people think it is the worst.
Yeah.
Of all.
Yikes.
So yeah, I'm lucky I did it once, and granted, I found out there was in fact going to be an ongoing challenge if I did try to get pregnant naturally.
Okay.
So
what did they find?
So they found that one of my fallopian tubes was blocked.
Oh wow.
So not only was I 35 and already later in the game, but also every other month I was definitely not going to get pregnant naturally that way.
Because you weren't ovulating out of that side.
I was ovulating, but it was blocked, so nothing was. It was never going to
being released.
Exactly.
Okay.
It was never going to. What needs to happen to get pregnant was never going to be able to happen.
Right. Okay.
So I knew then that if I wanted to get pregnant, I would have to try take other course of action. After the HSG, the first month, because they did say after 3 months you are the most likely to get pregnant, quote unquote, naturally. If you are able to get naturally, that's the time it would happen, likely. So we tried timed intercourse for 1 month. Then we tried an IUI, an unmedicated IUI the second month, and then I think it was a medicated IUI the third month. And clearly, that did not happen.
Okay.
And so I was like, all right, let's just fucking get to work now. We did that. Get it out of the way. Let's move on.
Thank you. Next.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll be very frank. I did no research at all before starting this journey.
Okay.
I just took action. I was like, all right, where's my insurance covered? I made an appointment at one place. My friend actually went there and got pregnant, and her friend went there and got pregnant. I was like, all right, I'm going to New Hope. That's it. I knew nothing about their protocol. I knew nothing about their procedures. I knew nothing about their doctors. I knew nothing about their systems. But I knew people that got pregnant from it, and my insurance was taken there. So that was my story. That said,
I love your honesty.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important for people.
Coming.
Yeah, it's important for people to some people put so much effort into understanding every aspect of it, and I talk to a lot of people. I started a company, and I hope we get into this a little bit, called It's Conceivable.
Yes,
and it's to support women along this journey. And a lot of people say, well, what should I do, or what can I do? And I say, listen, you can do it all, and you might get pregnant, but also you might not.
Right.
Or you can do literally nothing, listen to what the doctor says, and get pregnant.
Yeah.
And that's what I did.
True.
And it worked for me. So there's no absolute, people want answers. People are always looking for, how am I going to get pregnant? What can I do to get pregnant? We just don't know.
Yeah.
But I digress. We can get back to that later. Point is, I did no research, knew nothing, but this doctor in this clinic specializes in mini IVF. The intention of mini IVF versus a regular round of IVF is fewer drugs, less invasive, and more focused on quality of egg versus quantity of egg.
Okay.
So a lot of clinics, I run this Facebook group called Warriors, and a lot of people say, I got 37 eggs, is that good? And people are like, that's amazing. But then regrettably, when they go through blast and they end up with one good embryo. So what New Hope and what Mini IVF focuses on they want you to get 4 or 5 good eggs that are going to that will be viable embryos. And so that is actually exactly what happened to me. I ended up with 6 eggs. 5 made it to blast. I transferred 2 back
and blast, just to remind her, it's day 5, right? When they turn to blastocyst.
Yes, I'm on. Yep. So those were day 5. I transferred, and this is how much I don't. I'm pretty sure I actually transferred 2 day 3.
Okay.
That were fresh. Froze the rest. There were 3 that I froze, and this was back in, I guess I don't even know, April or May of 2015. Yeah, 2015. I put in 2, and 1 stuck, and I got a healthy pregnancy from New Hope, from my mini IVF. And
Did they call it mini IVF, or is that just your term?
No.
That's what they call it?
Okay. It's called mini IVF for the reasons I said. It's a miniature version of the huge. I mean, you see these pictures now of people who have rainbow babies or babies that come from IVF and all the needles that are around them. I don't know if you've seen these very powerful photos, which I find just moving and wonderful and depressing and all of those things. But I think I had maybe 10 injections the whole time. So 1 stuck, and I got pregnant, and it was amazing. And obviously, it was amazing. My daughter is amazing. I fucking hated being pregnant. And I hate saying that as I am now in the space of supporting women along their fertility and motherhood journey, because I know so many of us, all we want to do is get pregnant. All we're dying to do is get pregnant. We see our friends their announcements and their posts on Facebook or Instagram about their pregnancy and their baby, and we hate those people because all we want is to get pregnant. And I felt that way too. That said, I also fucking hated being pregnant.
Yeah. But don't you think that you hating it makes you a good candidate for someone who's going to help people? Because you know all the ins and outs of it.
Yeah,
and you know the
fair.
downside.
Yeah.
And, you have empathy for people who are being honest and saying, this isn't, like, I wanted this so badly, but it kind of sucks.
So true.
The end result doesn't suck, but the process, and that's okay.
Right.
It's okay to think it sucks.
I appreciate that. It's true. I think you can be empathetic and sympathize and all of that and understand, but just because the outcome you want is what you want doesn't mean that the journey is easy or fun or great or what you hoped or what you expected.
Right.
It's still really fucking hard.
Yes.
And it was really fucking hard.
Why did you hate it so much?
So I never thought I was going to be a good mother. I'm not maternal. I don't know how to cook. I don't know how to clean. These are not things that just come naturally to me. So and I don't get on the floor and play. I'm not that kind of mom. That said, I think actually I ended up being a really amazing mom, from what people tell me at least. But I was terrible being pregnant. I was good at one. I was terrible at the other. I just did not do pregnancy well. I have a pretty high pain tolerance and threshold. Everything about my body hurt and sucked while I was pregnant.
Okay.
I was so crazy nauseous. My sciatic bone, just every part of my body felt broken for virtually every moment of my pregnancy. The second trimester, as it does, picked up. I felt a little bit better, but it was really bad. Really, really bad.
So did you have conflicting feelings when, like we just kind of talked about, you wanted it so badly, but then when you were in it, you were like, oh,
yes. I was counting the days until it was over, which, again, at the same time, I was also worrying, because when you're pregnant, even if you didn't go through fertility challenges, you're still worried about pregnancies and miscarriages and all the things that could go wrong. And I now know, because I've talked to a lot of doctors, what you really can eat and what you shouldn't eat, quote unquote. But at the time, my doctor was like, you can eat sushi, you can eat you can eat hot dogs, you can eat all the meat, eat whatever you want. Yeah,
just a few years ago.
So it's really a liability. So doctors that tell you not to do any of that now, they just don't want to get. They don't want to get slammed by, if you choose to go get sushi from Dwayne Reed and get listeria from whatever. If you're choosing to eat at shitty places, you're going to get sick regardless of if you're pregnant or not. Okay. So doctors are really just saying it to cover their ass.
So they're erring on the side of being conservative and don't do X, Y, and Z so they don't get in trouble.
Unless you talk to certain doctors who are like, you're going to be absolutely fine.
Okay.
I mean, my second pregnancy, I drank, I ate, I literally did everything that people who, especially first-time pregnancies, don't do. Though I did it my first time too, because my doctor was very lenient, and all my kids are super healthy. So when I went through my journey, there did not seem to be a ton of support out there for people going through this. Yeah. And my whole life, I've always been somebody that if something didn't exist, I would just create it or build it. And similarly here, I was like, well, there's no support out there for those who are on this journey to motherhood and struggling and don't have resources or support or a community. So I started a Facebook group when I was pregnant with Harper, with my first, and it's called Warriors. And it exists online, though we do meet in person as well. It exists for people to be able to have a safe space, and we all hold the safe space really well. I know there's a lot of groups out there that are not kind and not good and not nice to each other. This group, I think in 5 years, I've had one issue, or 4 years, I've had one issue that I've had to talk to somebody about. Otherwise, it's really been an amazingly supportive, kind, wonderful group of women who are there truly to support each other and be resources to each other.
Wait, can I just say your cat is
Desperate to
keeps
talk
coming
to
over and really wants to get up on the microphone.
Sorry, Research. This is not your podcast.
Your cat's named Research.
This is Research too.
Cracking me up. All right.
All right. So he's
He
he's
just
getting
laid
real
down,
comfy.
but we might hear some meowing. That's all.
It's
good.
not me.
It's all good.
So I started Warriors, and from there, I then realized that there was more that needed to be created for the women in this space. So I created a pregnant from fertility group. I created a baby from fertility group. I created a donor egg group. And since then, I've created about 20 more that are focused on supporting women in different phases or spaces within the fertility space. So
It's
women
so
who,
great.
It's been
So you were telling me when we had coffee that you just were like, what other group can I create? Like boom,
Yep.
boom, 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 boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom, trying to cover all the bases because
Yeah.
you want to reach out like we both do to
Yep.
as many people as we can.
And so so I'm really trying to make sure that, like you said, I'm covering everything. Secondary infertility, women who are 40 and above.
Yeah.
I'm
How many people would you say you've reached through all these groups?
wow. Well, what's gotten really amazing is not only are there numbers, like there's a few thousand probably collectively. They're international groups now.
Yeah.
Though a lot of people live in New York.
So I want to talk more about your story, and then we'll talk about It's Conceivable as
Okay.
well. So tell me more. So you had Harper.
So I had Harper.
And how old is she now?
So she is now 3.5.
Okay. That's
so it
same as my
was-
son.
Yeah,
Sonny,
yeah.
yeah. We need to get them together.
I know, that would be fun. Next play date is outside in the
Yes.
playground with cups of wine. So she was amazing, and it was just mind blowing for me because I never had one. I never did want kids, and then I had her, and literally, Nathan can attest to this for better or for worse. Days after we came home from the hospital, I said I want to do this again. He goes, then I'm leaving.
Bye.
Yep.
So wait, the pregnancy sucked. How was the
sucked.
delivery?
Okay, so I go to since 1994. I've been going to see Fish every New Year's.
I love you.
I was 8 months pregnant, and I said, Nathan, we had tickets. I said, we're going to Fish
Okay.
New Year's because that's
Is
what
that
we do.
don't they play Madison Square Garden every
Correct.
New Year's?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. But this New Year's.
So this is Fish with a
20
PH. I know my
correct.
mom will be listening to this and she'll want to Google it. Mom, it's a band. It's a
We'll
jam
send you
band.
some links to listen
Yeah.
to. So we had tickets to go, and pretty much every day leading up to it, Nathan was like, we're not going to see Fish. We're not going to see Fish. And I was insistent that we were going. And then a few days earlier, in my misery and discomfort, I was like, we're not fucking going to see Fish. So I got rid of my tickets, gave them to a friend of mine who was obviously elated that she got to go, and it was easier for her to get them. So we ended up going to my sister's for New Year's. She lives up in Westchester, and we got there, and Nathan had poured already like three glasses of bourbon, so he was enjoying New Year's. We had bought the stream of Fish, so we were going to watch it anyway. And then I went to the bathroom, and I was gushing blood. And I was like, well, I'm close to the end. It's not abnormal.
What was your due date?
I was due January 22nd.
Okay, so this
I
is
think.
scary.
So I was like, I mean, it's blood, but it's close to the end. Like it actually didn't scare me.
Okay.
But both my mom and my sister were like, you need to go to the hospital right now.
Oh, God.
And then I was like, wait, no, but it's
Fish concert.
fine. And my doctor's in Argentina. And we're not in the city. We can't. This is not right. No. But they were like, no, you have to go. So Nathan had 3 bourbons already, so he couldn't drive. So my
Right.
sister drove. Nathan was in the back seat, we went to the hospital. We get to the hospital. They take me in. Somebody shoves their fingers at me and says, you're fully dilated. But we don't have labor and delivery here. So we're going to get an ambulance and ship you over to the hospital that does have labor and delivery. I was like, oh my God. Nathan's on the phone with his parents. The baby is coming. The baby is coming.
Oh my gosh.
So we get in the ambulance. They're checking my contractions, which are very frequent at this point. Like at a certain point that day, they had been every 1 minute. And as a doula, what you tell people is, if you do have a doula, is to call them at 311. So you're having that many contractions within an hour that last a minute long. I was having that. So baby was coming. So we get to the hospital, and I'm crying again because we're not in my mind. I'm having a city birth with my doctor in the city, and now we're in Westchester. They wheel me into this panoramic views, this beautiful hospital. Everyone gets their private room, and this is not my day. This is not where we're supposed to be having the baby. I get in, and somebody checks me again and goes, "You're not dilated at all." And I was like, "Well, then who just stuck their fingers up my vagina?"
What?
Correct. So I was not dilated, but I was in labor and ended up having every minute contractions all night long, but nothing happened. I did not dilate. I did not open up at all.
So they just did not know what they were talking about? Or
No, so that I have no idea. It was like a janitor. I literally still don't know who it was who did it.
God.
I literally do not know who that was. I don't want to know, so I've never looked into it. But
oh my God.
Yeah, so I ended up going back to my sister's house. That morning at 5 a.m., my dad came to pick us up. They said you're in labor, but the baby could come at any point because you're not dilating, so they're not coming. And baby, your heart rate's fine, baby's heart rate's fine, so we're sending you home. And I said, but should I come back later? What do I? And they said, we don't know. And the uncertainty of all of it is always so aggravating. What do you mean? Just tell me something so I know what to do.
Wow.
So I went home and I stayed at my sister's for the next 3 days. I drank wine and laid in her bathtub for 3 days. And baby still didn't come, so I ended up going home. And my doctor came back from his Argentinian vacation. I had a doctor's appointment set up that day. It was a Tuesday, if I recall. He checked me. He said, you're 2 centimeters, which is not nothing, but it's also not that far along. But he said, but you've been in labor for a week now. So I forgot this point. He said, go home, take a shot of castor oil. I forgot that immediately
Wow,
after
that's
he
so
said
old
it.
school.
People still do it, but apparently the contractions come on like wildfire and are horrible and you shit yourself all day. So
Oh, God.
I'm glad that I did not remember it. But he said, do that, come back at 6 p.m. when I'm off. I'm going to strip your membranes, send you to the hospital, and the baby's coming tonight. And that I liked. I was like, all right, I have a plan in place. So I went home, I finished up my work, I called work, and I was like, this is what's happening. I'm heading out, clocked out for the next 3 months. And so that's what happened. I went back up at 6 p.m. He stripped my membranes. It hurt like a motherfucker. And I went to the hospital. That was I got to the hospital about 7-ish. I got an epidural immediately. That anesthesiologist was amazing. And I was in labor for a few hours, but only pushed for 13 minutes with Harper.
Wow.
And she came out, and she was 5'2", and she was perfect. She was 2 weeks early, but she was okay, and I was okay, and they wheeled her away, and I didn't see her for hours, and that's another thing that, as a doula now, I talk to people about. I say, if you want your baby, tell them you want your baby to stay with you. They don't
Did
need
they
to
take
go.
her to the NICU because she was
No,
early?
she was
or
fine.
where-
They just took her to clean her up, and I didn't know any better, and I didn't have a doula, and I didn't know what to say yes to or no to or what to ask. So that was a learning experience for me.
Yeah.
I kept saying, okay, I want my baby back, and hours went by before we finally got her.
Wow.
So it was really, I
That's
was really sad about that.
Crazy.
And it's also normal, unfortunately, here.
Really?
Yeah. Are you trying to remember if you had?
No, that did not happen with me. I was able to hold both of them right away and stay with them for
amazing
the next several hours, which was great. I didn't realize that was an anomaly that I got to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was up at Sinai
Okay.
for that birth. So yeah, so I had her, and I got home. I was very, very lucky. I did not suffer from any postpartum experiences except for one night where I think pretty much all the hormones that had built up in me for the previous 9 months just flooded out of me, and for 3 hours I was heaving and hysterical and crying that this baby can't grow up. She has to be like this for the rest of her life and my life, and nothing can change. And then it all flooded out of me, and thank God, because those are some serious emotions.
No, I remember one night when Ever was a newborn, my almost 10-year-old now, and our bedroom at the time had this balcony, like a Juliet balcony, like a small balcony. New Yorkers will know what that means. And Vince came in the room, and I was just holding the baby, like gripping her and sobbing. And I was like, I don't want her to fall off the balcony.
Yeah.
And he was like,
Why
she's not
would
going
she
to fall off the
fall off the
balcony.
balcony?
We've got a gate. It's locked. Everything's. And I was like, but what if she does? And I was like convinced that it was going to happen, and I couldn't stop crying. And then
the anxiety.
later I was like,
and the
oh, that was definitely hormones.
That was not me. Yeah, there was some serious. They really take over.
Yeah.
But I was very lucky, and besides that, I was really fine, and I loved I know a lot of people don't love the early days and newborn days, but I loved them. Laid around, she was terrible at nursing, or I was terrible at nursing, or we were terrible at nursing. So it took us 6 weeks to really get the hang of it. I struggled a lot with it, which is also totally
so
normal
did I.
that I know now.
It's hard for me too.
Yeah, it's. I also, with my first, was adamant that I had to just give her breast milk because that's what you're supposed to do, quote unquote. And then, of course, I learned since that is not accurate, and feeding your child is what is the most important, and them growing and them being healthy is absolutely unequivocally the most important. But unfortunately, society.
Yes, we ladies put a lot of pressure on each other and ourselves in terms of breastfeeding.
Yeah. But yeah, so it was really amazing, and I loved it, and I was devastated when I had to go back to work after 3 months. It was not enough time, and then I of course got on my soapbox about childcare and about and about maternity leave and paternity leave and family leave, and that lasted for a little while. But nonetheless, I had to go back to work and have a job and pay for insurance and pay for all of that. I went back for a while, but I was also at that point desperate to have more kids, and we were like one and done. Once we said we were having kids, we were like, definitely only one. Yep. Definitely only one. No way do we want more than that.
Because fish tickets are expensive.
Correct.
So you don't have to take 5 people.
You can't travel to Mexico to see them in February with 5 freaking family members.
Right.
So, exactly. We did actually take Harper to see her first fish show when she was like 6 months old at SPAC. Yes. It was really wonderful. We have a poster from it, which is awesome. Yep. So I started looking into when I could do another transfer of 2 of the remaining embryos that I had in the bank. And I got very lucky at my job. The insurance changed and increased. We had a max lifetime health insurance of $10,000, and then this year it went up to $25,000. So I had the coverage for all the monitoring and the transfer and everything again.
Great.
And so I had to wait for the year to pass so I could do it again. And the second that I could, I did it again. So
it's like 12:01 on January 1st.
Literally, I was like, okay, I'm going to take birth control, so on this day I can do that. I actually set it up.
So you had 3 on ice.
So I had 3 on ice. Okay. Correct. When it was getting close to transfer time, I had a day 5, a day 6, and a day 7. And none of them were particularly good graded. And so that's also, some clinics say don't worry about the grading.
The grading is different everywhere too. Correct. Sometimes it's a letter, sometimes it's a number, sometimes it's a combo. So
and sometimes it doesn't matter. And
there's no consistent grading, right?
Unfortunately, with a lot of things, that's part 5. There's PGS testing, which some people are adamant about because they've, unfortunately had a lot of miscarriages, and so they wanted PGS tests because then at least you have quote unquote a perfect embryo. Yep. Regrettably, sometimes those don't work either. So there is no absolute in this.
Or did you read that? Was it the New York Magazine article about the testing where sometimes they'll pull part of an embryo, but it's different from another part, and so they'll get a result that it's not healthy, but it actually is.
Well, that's why some doctors are transferring mosaics now.
Right.
There's a whole controversy with mosaics.
It's
so some doctors throw them away.
Anybody listening that hasn't read that, look up the New York Magazine article. It's probably like a year and a half ago, maybe.
Yeah, I know somebody actually who transferred 2 mosaics and is pregnant with a mosaic
So
pregnancy.
What is a mosaic? A mixture.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly. And so some doctors were saying it's going to be an abnormal pregnancy, so we don't keep it, we're going to just throw it away. But now people are transferring them and they're having healthy pregnancies because they can self-correct in the womb, purportedly.
Oh, wow. That is so cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of really fascinating new evidence out there about how you can have a healthy pregnancy. But point being, grading doesn't necessarily work. PGS testing doesn't necessarily mean anything. You just don't know. Mm-hmm. So my plan was to transfer a day 5 and a day 7 because we didn't really want twins, but I was open to twins, and I kind of thought it would be cool to have twins, but at the same time, we definitely can't afford twins. So the plan was our day 5 and our day 7. And in the hall, it was literally the day before they were going to take them off ice to transfer them the next day. And at the last minute, I go, you know what? Fuck it. Let's just do the day 5 and the day 6. So in the hall with the doctor I've never met, I literally couldn't even tell you his name right now, I switched the embryo that we took off ice. And that's what transferred. And that was January of 20...
So wait, what was the difference?
Like we had a day 5, a day 6, and a day 7.
Right, but why were you not going to do 5 and 6 originally? Sorry.
Because it was more likely to... So more likely grading doesn't work. 7 is... I think day 7s often have a 10% likelihood of actually working, of implanting, of becoming a healthy pregnancy. And so I was like, well, day 6 is going to be more likely to be a healthy pregnancy. Day 5 and day 6, let's just do those together because then maybe at least one of the 2 will stick as opposed to potentially neither of them sticking.
Gotcha.
Also, none of this was not necessarily rational either. I was just like, here's what I think. And without actually doing any research on this is what I've decided. Literally standing here with a doctor that I don't know 24 hours before they're making this call.
Okay.
So he literally, I watched him do it in an Excel spreadsheet. He pressed delete for the day 7, typed in day 6, and that's what happened. Wow. And so... I guess it was that. I think it was literally 48 hours later. I went back. They transferred them. Did not do the HCG shot, which they used to do the first round. I didn't do any acupuncture surrounding the transfer the first time. I did no supplementing of any Eastern resource type of support for pregnancy, though there's a lot of evidence in that space now that it does help, though a lot of doctors will say it won't hurt, but it won't necessarily help. And then the night before we were going in for our beta in the morning, I remember I was sitting down, I think I had friends over, 2 people were on the ground, I don't know who they were, and I got this heat wave over me, this like hot flash, and at the moment it didn't occur to me, and then the next morning I was like, oh my god, those are hormones, that is my positive pregnancy test.
Wow.
And then the next morning we went in for the test, and Yeah, it was actually not, in retrospect, it was.
It was like the universe being like,
Yep,
you're pregnant.
Yep, your body's telling you something. You're going to be really uncomfortable for the next 9 months.
Yeah.
So I went in, I got the beta. They called back. We were at the dog park with Harper and Hampton, our dog, and it was positive. And we did not know what kind of positive it was yet. It was a high beta, but that doesn't, some doctors will say that means that could mean twins, or some doctors will say that does not mean twins.
Right.
It, in fact, did mean twins, and I ended up pregnant with a set of twins. And when we went in for the sonogram and we saw 2, we were like, holy fuck, it's twins. And yeah, it was obviously amazing and so scary, and so amazing and so scary. And then that began another, unfortunately, very terrible pregnancy.
Okay. Was it worse than your first one?
Yeah, it was really hard. I actually, at the 3-month mark, I got SPD, which is symphysis pubic dysfunction. Your pelvis is not one bone, it's 2, and it's connected by a ligament. And I basically pulled that ligament. It basically felt like my vagina was broken and I couldn't walk.
Oh my God.
Correct. It was miserable. So I had to work from home because I couldn't move. It was just a really hard pregnancy.
Yeah.
I did take a VIA very often to get some like medical massages in my lower back because the sciatic pain was terrible. But it was, twin pregnancies are hard. You're building 2 babies, you're creating 2 humans, and then you're carrying them, and all the stuff that comes with it. Because of these pregnancies and because of my experiences is why I ended up training to become a doula. And again, we're foreshadowing to my future, but I did do that because now I want other people to know that that hospitals and doctors are not the law. Nobody's going to arrest you if you choose to do something. It's your right, it's your baby, it's your body, it's your life.
Right.
So there are things that I wish I knew. I wish that I had known at the time, that I hope that I can instill and advocate for other people now.
Yes. So I want to hear about you becoming a doula and your new business too. So let's talk a little bit about that. So what was the path for you to get there?
So I loved, and I ended up loving having kids. I loved having kids. I loved the experience of becoming a mother minus the actual physical experience of holding the children in my body. I loved all of it except that part sucked. I don't know what happened, but my passions changed, my intentions changed, everything about my life and my identity changed once I had my children. And being around, I started different groups for moms when I first had Harper. Actually, I was pregnant with Harper, and I didn't want to be alone or bored during maternity leave, and I knew we were going to be up at 3 a.m. feeding, so I started a group and posted in all the different mom groups around saying, anybody who's having a winter baby in 2016, here's a group. I ended up doing that with the twins. I created a twin group, and I just...
Did you make some good parent friends through that?
So all of my best mom friends are from the first group that I started, my Winter Babies 2016 group. You grow up with people and you have life experiences with people, and then you meet people when you're dating somebody, and all of those matter, and you keep some of those, but your mom friends, I just think there's a whole new phase of life and a whole new phase of your identity that comes, and so there's just something more relatable, and you can share. I mean, the amount of TMI stuff that we talk about all day, the amount of vaginas and penises.
Chain? Does it have like a
No, it's just us.
Okay.
It actually, that's funny that you asked that, because at one point there were other moms that were joining and leaving, and then we just called it just us.
Okay.
Because I was like, no, this is the core, this is the epicenter. We were talking all the time, and it's really been just helpful, and everyone knows when each birthday is and who's pregnant and whose husband's going for interviews and what doctor did. It's
your support group.
It really
it's your
is.
Village.
It really is, and that's exactly. I realize that people need that, and people don't know how to find it, and people don't know that they need it until they either don't have it or it's down the line. And so I wanted to create something that allowed people to connect, both with each other, but also one-on-one, for asking questions, because maybe some people aren't as comfortable in a group setting or in a community setting to ask questions. So I became a doula. I trained to become a doula through DTI because of all the reasons that we've spoken about already. I realized that there's so much that people don't know. As a birthing person, you expect that the doctor in the hospital is going to do right by you because they're the doctor in the hospital, and that's what they should do. And hopefully that's the case, but it's not necessarily the case. And I think having an advocate in the room, in the space with you, before you're actually birthing, as well as during and after, just to help you really along that journey, is really meaningful and helpful.
Yeah.
In retrospect, I wish I had one. I didn't for both, because I was like, well, the baby's going to come out one way or another. Why do I need someone to help me?
Right.
I know now why.
Right.
So I do, whether it's me or somebody else, I do think it's really important for people to have the support that they.
You and I met through Allison, who was episode 4, doula, and she was awesome too. So that's our connection.
And I met her through my Warriors group, so she's an infertility doula, focusing on that specifically.
Yeah.
And we met through that, and I've met a slew of incredible women through the fertility space who also are
this
in
community is so incredible.
Right, that's
and like every day I'm just floored by like the amount of support that people give each other and the amount of like encouragement and
it all came from what we were talking about before.
Right.
Like we all went through something.
Right.
And we found this path and these people because of it.
Exactly. So tell me about your new website.
So I started a company. I started a practice called It's Conceivable.
Love it.
Thank you. Yeah, it feels really good. It feels really right. You know, the social organizing that I've done feels good too. But I've really, I have my master's from NYU and my license to practice social work because what matters to me is really helping people on an individual basis through struggles, through their journeys, through their life experiences. And this space in particular is such a daunting one, and I don't think there's a lot of focused support here. So I decided to offer that to people. I'm actually working with somebody in Germany right now because everything can be virtual these days.
Yeah.
You don't need a space. I do have a space in Midtown for those people who want to meet in person, but truthfully, nobody has yet asked to meet in person.
Okay.
Everybody wants to either use
So what are you doing specifically for them? Like answering questions and being support group? And
I offer a 15-minute free consultation to get to know these people so I can find out what it is that exactly, what do you do, what can you do for me or how can you help me? Some people want collaborative problem solving. Some people want a sounding board. Some people want just to talk because they've been talking to their partner, their spouse, their husband, their girlfriend, whomever, for so long about the same things, and they just can't. They don't want to talk to that person anymore, and that person truthfully doesn't want to hear the same thing over and over again.
Oh my God, I could have used this so much when I was going through it.
That's what I get a lot. Is
so good.
You just need somebody who. I'm an unbiased perspective because I'm not going to tell you, and I am your cheerleader, I am your advocate, but
but you're also no bullshit, and you're huge and honest, which people know because they've just listened to your whole story. But I feel like you're the perfect person for that.
Oh, that means a lot. I really appreciate that. And so, I do phone calls, I do video calls, I offer text, I offer email, pretty much whatever. It's kind of a choose your own adventure, if you will.
Right.
I want to be, there's something called being where the client is at in social work, and I want to be wherever you are. Whatever is going to help you the most, I want to be that for you.
Is there anything else that you want to add before we wrap it up? Any advice that you've learned along the way, or like, you said a couple times, I wish I had known like X, Y, and Z, and I was thinking you should do like a whole, you probably have, but like write a book on what you know, like now that you're a doula, what you wish you had known before.
I think there's no absolute in any of this, and as much as we can, as much as our personalities allow us to, I think we really have to understand that we don't have control over any of this. So as much as we can go with it and understand that each day is going to be a new day, and unfortunately, each beta is going to be a new beta, and sometimes they're positive, and sometimes they're negative, and sometimes it's great news, and sometimes it's terrible news, and it's all so overwhelming, and that's just the reality of it, and we don't have the control over ultimately what's going to happen. So if we can just be there as support for each other and for our friends, I think a lot of times somebody has a miscarriage, or somebody has a stillbirth, or somebody has a loss, and our friends don't know what to do or what to say. Just be there. You don't need to say the right thing. You don't need to know what to say.
Right.
Go over and bring water and food. Go over and make coffee. Go over and sit there, maybe in silence, but just be there.
Yeah.
I think it's not about what to say, but about being present.
Or even being honest and saying, I don't know what to say.
Totally.
But I love you.
Totally.
I'm thinking of you.
100.
You know?
Just say something.
Hey again, guys. So I want to thank Rebekah for sharing her story. She is funny as shit and real AF. And I want to make sure that you guys check out her website, which is its-conceivable.com. I will put it on my social as well. But I hope you guys feel inspired, and I hope you feel supported. And I hope you know, as always, that you are not alone, no matter what you're going through. So thank you for listening, and I will talk to you again next time.